Remember the days when we were told as a Christian, we just don't understand Islam. But what happens when Muslim takes the platform and then tells other Muslims, dear Muslim brothers, your arguments are weak and outdated. So let's listen carefully.
I'm going to go to Brother Adi Dawah. Look, I totally disagree with a bunch of the way, some of the arguments he presents, some of the way he presents himself in the past. What lowers him is I don't think he's well read on Christianity or Islam, and I don't think he uses amazing arguments, but I don't think he's the worst of the worst either. I think I'm going to put him in the C range.
Ali Dawah. What is the charge for Ali Dawah? Poor reading of the both scripture of Muslims and Christians, right? So passion without clarity, volume without scholarship. So what is the lesson? Having zeal doesn't mean actually you have the knowledge, right?
This is Zakir Naik, Dr. Zakir Naik. But in terms of his arguments and some of the things he's even said from an Islamic paradigm that I disagree with, I don't think he has very great arguments when it comes to defending Islam or attacking Christianity, refuting Christianity. I'm going to say Zakir Naik is actually on the C list.
Zakir Naik, remember the days when he used to be known as the one of the most famous Muslim apologists on earth? So what we have about him now? Memorization without method. So what is the lesson? Speaking fast and giving out lots of verses after verses doesn't make your argument sound or convincing.
Let's go with one of the OGs of Dawah, Ahmed Deedat. Look, he's a showman, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just think some of his points are outdated now, like 30 years later. I think that, some points he still made are still solid and relevant, but I think that we have to move on from a lot of his style in terms of, being very biblically focused and going back and forth on what this verse says and what that says. And, some of the arguments I think have been a little bit overrated and maybe even debunked by now. But if we're going to include and be honest about his arguments and what is still relevant today and good, you can't put him at an A or an S. I'm just being frank. You got to go B or even C because he's passed away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him and reward him for his good deeds and his influence. I'm going to put him at a B minus. I can't disrespect him and put him on a C, I don't think.
Ahmed Deedat, a legend. But legends aren't infallible, right? Proof texting, the Bible isn't scholarship. 1980s polemics don't survive 21st century textual criticism. What is the lesson? You can respect the legacy, but please, please, please retire the arguments.
Brother Muhammad Hijab. But sometimes it's like similarly, bro, you're a little bit over the top, or you're not really presenting yourself appropriately, and he's engaged in a lot of things that I just wouldn't do and that I really don't respect. And one of my biggest problems with him is, and I've told him this, and it's the truth, is he's basically an Ikhwani. He claims to be Ethidi in Aqidah, but he doesn't want to take any public stances and really demonstrate that. And I think some of his opinions are very problematic when it comes to Aqidah. So if it was just based on influence and arguments, I would put him probably up here as a B. If I'm including his Aqidah aspect and his lack of backbone on taking certain stances and some of his antics that I really disagree with when dealing with Christians, I got to put him at a C level. Some people are shocked, but I got to put him at a C level. Honestly, he's going to go right next to his best friend, Adi Dawah. Although Adi Dawah took a recent public stance on something. So, you know what? I'm putting him there.
Strong rhetoric's massive platform. But when so-called Aqidah becomes blurry and showmanship replaces theology, even influence cannot save the weak foundation. So what is the lesson? Confidence isn't clarity.
Brother Muslim Lantern. And Brother Muslim Lantern, Muhammad Adi, he has increased a lot in popularity. He has influence. I really don't think his arguments are that strong or unique when it comes to critiquing Christianity. I think he's better at defending Islam than Christianity. But I really think he leaves a lot to desired from the research perspective. I think he overall has a good demeanor and good ambassadorship about him for how he portrays Islam, and from that point of view. And I think he's not dumb by any means. He's a smart guy, but I think he could improve his arguments a lot when it comes to critiquing Christianity. He still uses a lot of points that I would disagree with.
Muslim Lantern. Influence without originality, defense without depth, recycled critics of Christianity, minimum engagement with actual Christian scholarship. What is the lesson? Being good looking doesn't make you convincing, right?
Let's deal with Sheikh Uthman ibn Farouk. In terms of just purely argumentation from defending Islam and attacking Christianity, of course, I can't put him as an F with Shabir Adi. It would be disrespectful to even put him on the D level. But from a argument point of view, which I value more, I would put on a C or even D plus level. Straight up. I'm just being honest with you. I do not really think that the brother has contributed anything unique in terms of his argumentation for the Dawah and built on other people. I don't think he's really done that. I think he's really just followed in the footsteps of Zakir Naik and Ahmed Didat and presented it in his own way and did his own little street Dawah version of it. That's why I put him on the lower C part here.
Sheikh Uthman, who is not even Sheikh, okay? He's been reminded that street Dawah isn't academic Dawah. Repacking old arguments doesn't make them new or true, right? Influence carried by charisma, not contribution. So what is the lesson? Replication isn't innovation. Notice something? Christians didn't rank this man. Muslims did. But think about it. When the eternal critic says, in this occasion, when Muslims says about other Muslims that their arguments are weak, outdated and shallow, maybe the problem isn't Christians are ignorant. Maybe it is the Islamic polemics. If the best defenders of Islam are rated C by other Muslims, what does that say about the strength of their arguments?